In the first rays of light on a cold December day in 1985, St. Croix Falls, Wisconsin, lies under a blanket of snow. Despite the peaceful quiet of the small town, a tragic event is unfolding this morning. The life of a beloved mother and friend is brutally ended, triggering a decades-long search for justice. St. Croix Falls is a small town in the heart of Wisconsin, known for its community and tranquility. The residents all know each other and have built a close network of relationships that form the heart of this community. Yvonne Menke, a vibrant mother of four, is a valued member of this community due to her love of life and dedication to family and friends. Yvonne works at the local library, where she greets visitors of all ages with a smile on her lips and kind words every day. She dreams of enriching her town by advocating for education and community projects. In the shadow of this idyllic scene stands Mary Josephine Bailey, who is irrevocably linked to Yvonne's fate by the upcoming events. Mary was once a part of the closely connected community, but increasingly felt isolated, driven by unspoken ambitions and a complex network of relationships that connected her with Yvonne and the other residents of the town. When Yvonne leaves her home one morning, no one suspects that these are her last moments in the community she loves so much. The discovery of her tragic fate will shake St. Croix Falls and raise questions that remain unanswered for decades. On that December day in St. Croix Falls, Yvonne Menke's morning began like any other. The sun had just risen, casting the snowy landscape in a gentle light that streamed through the windows of her cozy home. Yvonne was preparing for the day, surrounded by the silence of her home, which she had filled with so much love. Her children were at school. She used the morning's quiet to get ready for work at the library. The library was more than just a workplace for her. It was a home for her passion to enrich the community through literature. However, the peace of this morning was abruptly shattered. Yvonne left her house, unaware that these would be the last moments of her life. The streets of St. Croix Falls were still empty and quiet as she walked through the cold, clear air. Yet, in the shadows lurked an unimaginable horror that was soon to unfold. The events that followed were rapid and left the community in shock and disbelief. Yvonne was attacked on her way to work outside her home, a place where she once felt safe. 3 shots rang out in the morning stillness. This act of violence ended the life of a beloved mother, friend, and community member. The discovery of Yvonne's body triggered a wave of horror that quickly spread through St. Croix Falls. Calls rushed through the phone lines as the news of the loss of one of their own reached the residents' hearts. The police were quickly called to the scene, and what they found was a scene of terror. Yvonne, lying on the ground, her life extinguished by an act as senseless as it was cruel. The investigation began immediately, but the clues were sparse. There were no witnesses to the crime itself, only fleeting observations of a figure seen near the scene in the early morning hours, too little to build on. The community was in shock. The thought that one of their own could be capable of such an act was unimaginable. In the days following the murder, St. Croix Falls did not find peace. The library, Yvonne's second home, became a place of mourning where citizens laid flowers and lit candles. Her colleagues, friends, and family members stood together, driven by their shared grief but also by their determination to seek justice for Yvonne. As the police continued their investigation, they encountered obstacles and puzzles that only made the case more complicated. The search for the perpetrator was marked by false leads and dead ends, while the grieving family and affected community waited for answers that were too long in coming. Yvonne's death left a gap in St. Croix Falls, a scar on the heart of the community she had loved so much. Her unfulfilled dreams, her plans for the future, were abruptly ended, and the questions raised by her tragic fate would occupy the town for a long time to come. What happened that day was not only an act of violence, but also the beginning of a long, painful search for justice that would shape the residents of St. Croix Falls in the years to come. Following the shocking murder of Yvonne Menke, St. Croix Falls investigators began interviewing witnesses, seeking to illuminate the darkness surrounding the crime. The community, still reeling from the tragedy, responded with a mix of sorrow, fear, and an urgent need for answers. Early witness accounts primarily came from neighbors and passers-by, who made unusual observations in the morning hours of the day of the crime. Some reported seeing an unidentified figure hurriedly leaving Yvonne's house, a description that remained vague and contributed little to identifying the perpetrator. Others recalled unusual sounds, an automobile speeding away in the early morning. Footsteps in the snow that suddenly ceased, whispers in the cold. Each detail, no matter how minor, was meticulously recorded in hopes it might unlock the case. However, it quickly became evident that Yvonne was not just a victim. She was the cornerstone of a community whose loss was deeply felt. Friends described her as a joyous soul whose commitment to her family and community was unparalleled. Her absence left a noticeable void in St. Croix Falls. Yvonne's death had a profound and complex impact on the community. In the weeks following the crime, the community organized vigils and memorial events, expressing not only grief but also solidarity. St. Croix Falls residents came together to honor Yvonne's life and support her family, serving as a powerful reminder of the community's cohesion in times of hardship. Moreover, the murder led to a wave of introspection within the town. Concerns about safety and mutual trust came to the forefront as residents grappled with the unsettling reality that the crime had occurred among them. Initiatives to strengthen community safety were launched, including neighborhood watches and police information sessions. Amid the pain and mourning, St. Croix Falls found a new strength. The determination to honor Yvonne's memory and seek justice for her became a unifying cause. The community recognized that, while the crime had left a deep wound, the collective response lay in compassion, resolve, and unwavering support for the bereaved. Thus, Yvonne Menke's murder became a catalytic event for St. Croix Falls, uniting residents in their shared grief, love, and relentless pursuit of justice. It was a painful but powerful testament to the resilience and solidarity of a community challenged by tragedy. The investigation into Yvonne Menke's murder presented significant challenges for the St. Croix Falls police. Initially, investigators faced a slim evidence trail marked by scant witness statements and a lack of direct evidence. The cold weather on that December morning left some traces in the snow, yet these offered no concrete leads on the perpetrator's identity. Police first interviewed Yvonne's family, friends, and colleagues, hoping to uncover potential motives or suspicious connections. Yvonne's universally positive life within the community, free from visible hostilities, left investigators in the dark. Mary Josephine Bailey, whose connections to Yvonne were initially unclear, became a focus due to her intermittent and sometimes contradictory statements. The investigation endured months of false leads and dead ends. Investigators encountered closed doors and silence, partly due to fear and the community's reluctance to suspect one of their own. A breakthrough seemed elusive as days passed, diminishing hopes for resolving the case. However, the investigative team's resolve, especially that of lead detective James Keller, remained strong. Keller's personal commitment to solving Yvonne's murder was driven by a sense of duty to the deceased and her family. "It's as if Yvonne herself won't let us rest until we find justice for her," Keller reflected during a quiet moment. As years went by and the case stalled, advancements in forensic technology opened new avenues for investigation. A re-examination of the evidence with modern DNA analysis methods and digital reconstruction finally provided the long-awaited answers. Hair and fibers found at the crime scene, previously unattributable, were now linked to Mary Josephine Bailey. Additionally, inconsistencies in her alibi raised further questions about her statements. The case's ongoing media presence and the community's relentless demand for justice encouraged new witnesses to come forward. Someone from Mary's closer circle broke their silence, sharing crucial information that connected Mary to the crime. This evidence, combined with forensic findings, ultimately led to Mary Josephine Bailey's arrest. The investigation into Yvonne Menke's murder was a protracted process, marked by frustrations and setbacks, but also by unwavering determination and faith in science. This steadfast effort eventually paved the way to truth, demonstrating that justice, though it may require time, should never be abandoned. After years of standstill and uncertainty, the crucial breakthrough in the investigation into Yvonne Menke's murder came when modern forensic technologies and the testimony of a new key witness finally pieced the puzzle together. The turning point occurred when investigators decided to re-examine the evidence with the latest forensic methods. A newly developed DNA analysis technique, capable of evaluating even the smallest biological traces, was applied to samples collected at the crime scene. This examination led to the discovery of DNA unequivocally linked to Mary Josephine Bailey. Similarly, fibers from clothing items seized during the search of Bailey's house were matched with fibers found at the scene. In parallel with forensic advancements, a new witness emerged, leading investigators directly to Bailey. This witness, a longtime acquaintance of Bailey, disclosed that he had noticed suspicious activities on the night of the murder. He reported how Bailey came home in the early morning hours in a state of extreme agitation, with clothes that appeared to be stained with blood. Initially silenced by fear and loyalty, the increased public interest and the burden of conscience eventually gave the witness the courage to come forward. Armed with the new evidence and the witness's testimony, authorities issued an arrest warrant for Mary Josephine Bailey. Her arrest took place in the early hours, almost symbolically at the same time Yvonne had lost her life years earlier. The news of Bailey's arrest spread quickly through St. Croix Falls, eliciting a flood of emotions from relief and hope to shock and discomfort at the realization that the perpetrator had lived undetected among them for so long. For Yvonne's family, the news of the arrest was a long-awaited ray of hope in a decade-long nightmare. Although nothing could undo the loss of Yvonne, the prospect of justice offered a semblance of comfort and the opportunity to begin the healing process. It's as if we finally have permission to breathe, to hope. Yvonne's eldest daughter shared in an emotional moment. The breakthrough in the investigation marked not only a victory for science and the persistence of the investigators, but also for the unwavering strength of a family and a community that never ceased seeking justice for Yvonne. When Mary Josephine Bailey finally stood trial, all eyes were on the courtroom in St. Croix Falls, where the long-awaited trial was to take place. The prosecution relied on the newly discovered forensic evidence and witness testimonies that linked Mary to the murder of Yvonne Menke. The tension was palpable as the community awaited answers to the decades-old mystery. Throughout the trial, emotional testimonies from Yvonne's family and friends highlighted Yvonne's loving nature and the profound loss her death had caused. The defense sought to cast doubt on the prosecution's evidence, presenting alibis and counter-arguments questioning Mary's presence at the crime scene. However, the overwhelming forensic evidence and testimonies establishing a direct link between Mary and the crime left little room for the defense's arguments. A pivotal moment in the trial was the presentation of DNA evidence conclusively tying Mary to the crime scene. Moved by the weight of the evidence, the jury deliberated and returned with a verdict that resonated through the town: guilty of the murder of Yvonne Menke. Mary Josephine Bailey's conviction unleashed a torrent of emotions in St. Croix Falls. For Yvonne's family, the verdict marked the long-awaited closure of a tragic chapter in their lives. "It doesn't bring Yvonne back, but it brings us one step closer to peace," a family member expressed. The community, having lived under the shadow of this unresolved crime for years, experienced a mix of relief and contemplation. The trial not only delivered justice for Yvonne but also raised new awareness of the importance of forensic sciences and the need for ongoing support for victims' families. It set a precedent, showing that the past, no matter how long ago, can always be uncovered. For the investigators and everyone involved in the case, the conviction was a testament to their tireless work and dedication. They had demonstrated that perseverance and belief in justice can solve even the coldest cases. In St. Croix Falls, the trial and its aftermath were a moment for collective reflection on loss, justice, and the indestructible strength of the community. It was a bitter victory, but one that brought healing and perhaps hope for a more peaceful future. The long journey of the Yvonne Menke case, beginning with the tragic night in December 1985 and spanning decades to the arrest and conviction of Mary Josephine Bailey, leaves us with profound reflections on justice, loss, and the indestructible nature of human resilience. This case illustrates that justice can sometimes take a long, winding path, where patience, perseverance, and unwavering faith in the legal system are the only guiding stars. It serves as a reminder that although the wheel of justice may grind slowly, it ultimately turns towards truth and resolution. The resilience of Yvonne's family and friends, who lived with the pain of their loss for years, yet never lost hope for justice, is a powerful demonstration of human strength. Their steadfastness, supported by the dogged efforts of investigators and a community unwilling to forget Yvonne, ultimately brought light to the darkness of this case. The role of technological advancements in forensics and the significance of public attention cannot be overstated. They highlight the importance of continual development and adaptation of our methods for solving crimes and the power of collective efforts to reopen and resolve even the coldest cases. This case also teaches us to preserve the memory of victims of such tragedies. Yvonne Menke was more than just a case name. She was a beloved mother, friend, and valuable community member. By remembering her and her story, we honor not only her life and spirit, but also the countless others whose lives have been extinguished by violence. In conclusion, the story of Yvonne Menke reminds us that amid loss and grief, the hope for justice is an indispensable comfort. It is a testament to the importance of never giving up, continually seeking answers, and advocating for the truth, no matter how many years may pass. In the final resolution of this case, we find not only justice for Yvonne and her loved ones, but also a deep lesson about the power of human connection, courage, and hope. What are your thoughts on this? Share them with me in the comments. If you liked it, I'd love a thumbs up and a subscription, and your feedback to help me prepare better true crime stories for you in the future. Stay safe.